The criticism and hate directed towards Yunjin of SSERAFIM have been not only harsh, but often baseless and unreasonable. As a member of one of the most successful K-pop groups in recent years, Yunjin has inevitably become a target for scrutiny. However, when we dissect the reasons behind the hate, it becomes clear that much of it stems from misunderstandings, double standards, and, frankly, the toxic nature of some segments of the K-pop fandom. Let's start with the Starbucks incident, which ignited much of the criticism against Yunjin. Earlier this year, Yunjin was photographed holding a Starbucks cup, and this seemingly innocuous act sparked a firestorm of controversy. Critics quickly jumped on her, accusing her of supporting the Israeli government due to the alleged ties between Starbucks and Israel. This backlash is deeply flawed on several levels. Firstly, the connection between Starbucks and Israel is tenuous at best. Starbucks is not on the official boycott list, and the company itself has denied any financial support to the Israeli government. The outrage, therefore, is based on misinformation. But beyond that, the fact that Yunjin, among countless other idols and public figures who have consumed Starbucks, was singled out for such intense criticism speaks volumes about the underlying motivations of her detractors. Yunjin is a Korean American who is fluent in English, and this aspect of her identity has unfortunately made her a target in the K-pop world. There is a pervasive belief among some fans that English-speaking idols should be more aware or woke about global issues simply because they have access to English language information. This expectation is both unrealistic and unfair. Yunjin moved to the United States at a young age and spent much of her formative years there, but that does not make her an expert on every geopolitical issue. Moreover, it's worth noting that Yunjin is an idol, not a politician or activist. Expecting her to navigate complex international politics perfectly is unreasonable, especially when she is already under immense pressure to maintain her public image, deliver flawless performances, and meet the expectations of fans around the world. The hate Yunjin has received also reflects a broader trend within the K-pop industry, where idols are often subjected to double standards. Many other idols, including those who are not fluent in English, have been photographed with Starbucks products, yet they have not faced the same level of backlash. This discrepancy suggests that the hate against Yunjin is not genuinely about the boycott or political issues, but rather an excuse to criticize her. It's a convenient way for detractors to tear her down under the guise of moral outrage. The reality is that Yunjin is simply the latest in a long line of idols who have been targeted for reasons that have little to do with their actual behavior or character. Another factor contributing to the hate against Yunjin is the statement she made early in her career about wanting to change the idol industry. This declaration was undoubtedly well-intentioned, reflecting her desire to make a positive impact. However, some fans and netizens have twisted her words, using them as a stick to beat her with whenever they perceive her actions as falling short of this lofty goal. The truth is, Yunjin's statement was more about her personal aspirations than a concrete plan to overhaul the entire K-pop industry. Changing an industry as massive and entrenched as K-pop is not something any one person, let alone a young idol, can accomplish on their own. Holding Yunjin to an impossible standard because of a statement made at the beginning of her career is deeply unfair. Moreover, the criticisms of Yunjin's actions often ignore the reality of being an idol. Idols are tightly controlled by their agencies, with limited autonomy over their public image and actions. Yunjin, like many idols, operates within a system that prioritizes profit and marketability over individual expression or political statements. Expecting her to single-handedly challenge or change this system is not just unrealistic, it's a fundamental misunderstanding of how the industry works. Despite these constraints, Yunjin has still managed to express herself in meaningful ways, such as through her music and public statements on issues she cares about, like mental health and body positivity. It's also important to recognize the impact of the online hate culture that pervades K-pop fandoms. Social media platforms, particularly Twitter and TikTok, have become breeding grounds for vitriol, where users can spread hate with little consequence. The anonymity provided by these platforms emboldens individuals to say things they would never dare to say in person. Yunjin has been a victim of this toxic environment, where criticism often escalates into full-blown harassment. The so-called cancellation of Yunjin over the Starbucks incident is a prime example of how quickly and irrationally online mobs can form, fueled by a mix of misinformation, jealousy, and the desire to feel morally superior. The hate Yunjin faces also reflects a broader issue of misogyny within the K-pop fandom. Female idols are often held to much higher standards than their male counterparts and are more likely to be criticized for their behavior, appearance, or perceived flaws. Yunjin, as a member of a successful girl group, is subject to this gendered scrutiny. The backlash against her for something as trivial as drinking Starbucks is symptomatic of the way female idols are often policed and judged more harshly than male idols. This double standard is deeply ingrained in the industry and is perpetuated by fans who hold unrealistic and unfair expectations for female idols. In addition to the gendered aspect of the hate, there is also an element of xenophobia at play. Yunjin's Korean-American identity makes her a target for criticism from those who view her as an outsider in the K-pop industry. The expectation that she should be more politically aware or sensitive because of her American upbringing is rooted in a form of xenophobia that sees her as different from her Korean-born peers. This bias is further exacerbated by the fact that Yunjin is fluent in English, which some fans mistakenly equate with being more woke or socially conscious. This assumption is not only incorrect, but also discriminatory, as it unfairly singles out Yunjin for criticism based on her background rather than her actions. Another reason for the hate against Yunjin is the perception that she is arrogant or overly ambitious. Her statement about wanting to change the idol industry has been used against her, with critics accusing her of being pretentious or unrealistic. However, this criticism is unfounded. Ambition is not a flaw, and Yunjin's desire to make a positive impact should be celebrated, not condemned. The fact that she has expressed a desire to challenge the status quo is commendable, especially in an industry that is often resistant to change. Rather than tearing her down for her aspirations, fans and critics alike should recognize the value in having idols who are willing to speak out and challenge norms. It's also worth noting that much of the hate Yunjin receives is driven by jealousy. SSERAFIM's success has made them a target for rival fandoms who feel threatened by their popularity. This competitive mentality is pervasive in the K-pop industry, where fandoms often see each other as rivals rather than allies. The hate directed at Yunjin is, in many ways, a reflection of the envy and insecurity felt by those who perceive SSERAFIM's success as a threat to their favorite groups. This type of fan rivalry is toxic and detracts from the enjoyment of K-pop as a whole. Instead of focusing on tearing down other groups, fans should celebrate the diversity and talent within the industry. Furthermore, the criticism of Yunjin often lacks consistency. While she has been heavily criticized for the Starbucks incident, other idols who have engaged in similar behavior have not faced the same level of scrutiny. This inconsistency reveals a bias against Yunjin that is not rooted in her actions, but in a desire to find fault with her. The selective outrage directed at Yunjin is indicative of a broader issue within K-pop fandoms, where idols are often unfairly targeted based on personal biases rather than objective criteria. In conclusion, the hate against Yunjin is largely unjustified and rooted in a combination of misinformation, double standards, and the toxic nature of online fandoms. Yunjin is a talented and ambitious artist who has worked hard to achieve success in an industry that is notoriously difficult to navigate. The criticisms leveled against her are often based on unrealistic expectations, gender double standards, and xenophobic biases. Rather than tearing her down, fans should recognize and celebrate Yunjin's contributions to SSERAFIM and the K-pop industry as a whole. The hate she receives is not a reflection of her character or abilities, but rather a symptom of the broader issues that plague the K-pop fandom. It's time to move past the baseless criticisms and support Yunjin for the talented and inspiring artist that she is.